This program does not represent the views of this station and may be considered offensive to some listeners. This program may contain mature subject matter, including frank discussions of controversial topics. It is intended for mature, open-minded audiences. Discretion is highly advised. This program is entirely independently produced by and is copyrighted by Frank. It is broadcast here under license.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. I'm Frank because I have to be. We have an amazing guest for you, someone who is amazing enough to come into studio and share a little bit with us, maybe dispel a few myths and share the secret lives of people who work in the sex industry. And with that said, let us go to our guest. Her name is Ronnie NaughtyLady, and she is a professional escort. And on today's show, we're going to find out a little bit about her and the lifestyle of someone who works in the sex industry. Welcome to our studios, Ronnie NaughtyLady.
Well, thanks, Frank.
It's really great to have you here. I'd like to get right into the interview. Let's start off with your personal history. There's such a stigma attached to people who work in the sex industry that I'd really like to just find out some basic information about you, where you were born, where you grew up, anything about you as a person.
Well, I was born here in Montreal. I grew up in the suburbs, had a pretty normal childhood. Parents divorced when I was in elementary school, just like most of my friends. Went to high school, cégep, university. Pretty normal life.
And can you start us off from the time that you were in the, I don't know what better term we could call it, the normal workforce, and then made the transition from that workforce into the sex trade?
Well, I had a successful career in sales. I was doing quite well. I would work 10 years at the same place, putting in 40 to 60-hour weeks, and I suffered a job burnout. And went on unemployment. The unemployment ran out, and I was far from ready to go back to work. Went on welfare for 2 months and discovered there was way too much month at the end of the money. And so even though I wasn't up to working, and my doctor agreed I wasn't really up to working, the stress of not having enough income to live off of wasn't doing me any good either. So I went back to work. I got fired from 4 jobs in 1 year. Bosses don't seem to appreciate the need for an afternoon nap. After that, I was eligible for unemployment again. Went back on unemployment. This time when unemployment was running out, again, I wasn't ready to go back to work. I was still very tired, very weak, very stressed, and just not ready. I was still burnt out. And I realized I was about to get onto this really vicious circle. And I answered an ad in the back of the Mirror for one of those live sex chat hostesses. And I figured, what am I doing at home? I'm listening to the radio, fooling around on the computer, reading, napping, masturbating. I could get paid to do that. And even with 4 computers in front of me, sometimes it would be over an hour and nobody logs on. So I had nap time. And so suffering from burnout and needing to work, it was pretty much the ideal job for me at the time. After about 7 months, 8 months, something like that, I was feeling a lot better. During that time, while farting on the computer one day, I found a book called A Guide to Sex Work for the Interested and the Intrigued. And there was a chapter on live internet. So I thought this could be an interesting book for me to read. So I bought the book. And there was a more interesting chapter I found out when I bought the book. It was about escorting. And I said, I could do that. And broke a lot of ideas that I had in my head prior to starting, wow, you mean I don't have to look like a model? There's a lot of little ideas like that I had in my mind. So I called a few agencies, started working as an escort.
And how was the transition from working, just for the benefit of our listeners who maybe aren't aware, let's start first. What is the setup for the type of work you did over the internet?
I was working, it was like a chat line. I had worked in a studio. I had 4 computers in front of me, 4 different names. People could log on to my room. They could chat with me without seeing me for free. But if they wanted to see me, they would have to pay.
And then let's say they actually wanted to see you, they paid, what would happen?
Well, usually they would tell me what they wanted to see, and usually I would, it's various forms of masturbation, getting undressed, posing. A lot of the men would get quite rude on the phone. They would, log on, "Hey, bitch, I'm coming in your room. You better be undressed." And it was like, I didn't really like being talked to like that. But at the time, I was getting paid, I think, $12 an hour, and it was the best money I was making by the end of, 4 jobs in 1 year. Each job I was making progressively less, and wasn't too good for the self-esteem, but at the same time, I was making enough money to pay the rent.
And how is that different to the way you're treated now as a professional escort?
I get treated only with respect. I meet some wonderful gentlemen, and I'm choosing the word gentleman because that is the way they behave, and I'm being treated like respectfully, like a lady.
Now, if I understand this correctly, there's an image that girls who are working as professional escorts are regularly abused. They don't have very much say as to what goes on. How do you feel about those myths, and can you tell us whether or not they're accurate?
There are, how I work as an independent, I have 100% say what goes on, and I never, ever do anything I don't want to do. And when I was working, the agencies I worked for, I never had to do anything I did not want to do. That's one of the really great things about this job. There's not too many jobs where, I don't feel like doing that, I'm not going to do it. Your boss is going to say, "Okay, I understand." There are circumstances, not all pimps are bad. But there are some who do beat their girls, the ones who stereotypes are based on a grain of truth. And there are some who are like that. Okay.
And on that topic, I think the next logical question would be, do you have a pimp?
No, I work completely independently. I don't have a pimp. I don't have a manager. I work entirely for myself. There's nobody who forces me to work, and nobody who takes any of my cash after I've worked. I'm totally independent.
You're listening to Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles. We're in studio talking with Ronnie NaughtyLady, who is a professional escort and is giving us a little window into the world of professional escorts. We're going to be going to some music now, and after that, tongue twisted again. I hate
it's
when
my
happens.
Sexy body sitting in front of you that's doing it, isn't it?
Not just your body, your entire aura is absolutely divine. As per usual, here on Frank Talks Pleasures and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by